After teasing the entire music community about a month ago by releasing a video called Thanks for the Wild Ride, which seemed to be very much implying the band was going to break up, instead, Greta Van Fleet have done the opposite and released a brand new single, and it's called Play Your Games. Now, this is their first release in a little while. Their last album they released was Starcatcher, which came out in 2023. They hadn't really played live for a little while, but apparently a couple of days before they released this single, they played an intimate show at a place called the Bowery Ballroom, which is their first live show since 2024, so they've had a little decent period of inactivity here. Greta Van Fleet appeared to be back. So I couldn't find loads and loads of quotes for them talking about it, but in this Kerrang article, they did say that the flagship of the song is Irreverence. The guitarist Jake, oh god, I'm just not going to try, Kishka? It's this beautiful nature of seizing a moment, which is, to be fair, pretty much a whole lot of nothing. It sounds like they're just like, yeah, it's meant to be good. But interestingly, it does apparently appear to be inspired by an old demo of theirs that they rediscovered, though I can't find that particular quote in any other articles. But either way, pretty hyped for that. I've been a big fan of theirs for a while. And so the song itself was recorded in Tennessee with producer Mike Elizondo. I'm so sorry for the pronunciations of these things. But he was apparently a protege of Dr. Dre, who's got a pretty good pedigree working for Eminem, Turnstile, Linkin Park, Mastodon. That's a fairly decent, and Sheryl Crow. It's a fairly decent, eclectic set of styles. So kind of interesting to see that. And apparently the music video was also directed by Nicola, oh my god, this is gonna be hard, Knobj, I'm gonna have to look up that. How do we pronounce this name? Oh god, okay. Let's see how, okay, let's see.
Czernobrnia.
Okay, I actually think I did a fairly good job with that. We'll stick with that. So Greta Van Fleet first got on my radar, I think probably like a lot of people, when their first album or first EP, From the Fires, ended up winning the Grammy for Best Rock album, I believe, the year it came out, which at the time I think was a little bit controversial to me because I was like, it's a 5-track EP. I feel like it's unfair to have them in the same category as people who are releasing, 10 songs instead. But anyway, also, obviously they drew quite a lot of criticism for their very, very easy comparison to Led Zeppelin. The vocalist's voice does sound quite uncannily like Robert Plant. I don't think you can argue that. The guitar work, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, at the time, I thought that was kind of bullshit. To me, these guys are playing music that they like. They were very, very young, and from my explanation that I heard was that they also, basically lived in a comparatively rural part of the country, and they basically only had their dad's record collection to listen to growing up, and their dad was a big Led Zeppelin fan, so they became big Led Zeppelin fans. And, when you're 19, you play music you want to hear. And if they want to hear Led Zeppelin, I just don't really see the problem. I don't think it was derivative to a point of being an issue. I like the sound of Led Zeppelin. They're not making music like that anymore. So why not? I don't really understand why everyone hated on them so much. But anyway, over time, I think they have taken that criticism on board. And with each progressive album, they have kind of deviated further and further away from that sound. Still retaining that big classic rock feel to it, the kind of twangy guitars. His voice, he still does a lot of, like vocalisms and these big soaring notes, but I think the tone has been sort of migrating into slightly more of a modern rock sound. And interestingly, conversely, I have not heard a Greta Van Fleet song that I like more than their highlights from the Fires. Black Smoke Rising is one of my favorite songs ever. Highway Tune's a banger. Some of the covers on there, like Meet on the Ledge, is a really, really good song. It's a good version of it anyway. So, kind of conversely, I mean, every album they've released, there has been at least something on there for me. Like, they are good. Their second album is actually pretty badass. Anthem of the Peaceful Army has got some really good songs on it. Battle of the Gardens Gate, I didn't listen to loads, I will admit, but Broken Bells, my god, the introduction to the guitar solo in that one, just thinking about it is currently making my arms go a little bit goose pimply. Just the way that guitar kind of noodles around a little bit before it finally kicks in. I'm going to have to play you a little clip of it now because it is just so amazing. Just this full here. Ready? Just the way it all opens up there, god damn, it still works on me. I love that song. And, you know, I listened to Starcatcher a bit. I didn't catch too many of the songs from there, if I'm honest, but either way, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm kind of in their corner. I'm curious to see how the sound has developed. I've liked most of their catalogue, but I've been less familiar with the recent stuff, so I'm curious to hear what 2026 sounds like for Greta Van Fleet. So, what I'm going to do is listen through this for the first time, and we're going to cut around, skip through, pause it, whenever there's something that's interesting, kind of break down and analyze what it is about this song that I like or don't like. If you do want to see the entire song uninterrupted by me, I will link it in the description. Please go and watch that one first and then come back so you can hear my points. So, without any further ado, let's listen to Play Your Games. Okay. Very, very, like, sort of analog sounding, scratchy acoustic intro, kind of like that, like the recording style immediately. Okay. That's actually the whole thing, the drums as well, the sort of like mixing recording style of those sounds very kind of like lo-fi in a good way. I'm sure it's like very tightly, intentionally sculpted to sound like that, but it has this very, kind of like scratchy acoustic feel to it. It really does. I mean, it probably helps that I'm watching people play it in this house setting here, but I like this kind of like old school feel to it. Interesting riff. It's very Greta Van Fleet, but more acoustically, less. I mean, I'm assuming maybe the electric's going to kick in a little bit more, kind of gain maybe later on, or not. I don't know, but it's got this kind of like slightly fun, kind of like up and down, I guess irreverent feel to it already. Okay. Just one for the road. I'm dreaming the devil dry to lighten this load. I don't know why, but it just his voice never looks like it's coming from him. He's got this like ethereal, almost pixie-like feel to his voice, but it hasn't aged a day. He's still got this kind of like nasal, shrill, but like very compelling voice that is, cuts so nicely over the rest of the mix on that stuff, especially with the more kind of acoustic-based stuff here. Kind of interesting, quite stop-start, very staccato rhythm to the entire thing so far, which I quite like. I'm hoping in the chorus it's going to kind of open out into something a little bit more legato to provide us with a nice contrast, though. So the wild ride, you rock and you roll. There we go. Ooh. So, yeah, obviously we had that little interlude there, the little sort of like mid-late section, not mid-late, but like a kind of like brief pause between the verses that may even lead to be a pre-chorus later on down the song, but it slows down everything. The drum skips out a couple of the rhythm sections for a bit, and he does this vocalization, but interestingly, way more effects on that than I'm used to hearing with that. That one vocalization had like a big fat, I think it was a reverb with a little bit of echo. It was quite a dry echo on there, but it was definitely still this kind of like much more affected than I'm used to hearing his voice. But again, provides a nice legato break for a second before we go back into the slightly more janky second verse, or part two of the first verse. Ooh. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so there's a little bit to unpack there. To start with, that's a big note he's hitting there. He's hitting it repeatedly every time, that big gap, every time it's going through, which is interesting. He definitely isn't hitting that quite as clean as he used to, but I guess he's definitely not 19 anymore, so that kind of makes sense, right? He's like matured a little bit with that voice. He still hits that note though pretty clean. I'd be very curious to see how well he executes that stuff live. Just I know, this is not meant as a criticism, but I'm pretty sure he struggles with the very high notes in Black Smoke Rising, which is fair enough because they're higher even than that. But he does have this very iconic kind of big shrill sound to him, which is kind of becoming a little more shrill over time, I think. But I did like the kind of way that it hits that note. But then the last repetition of that chorus, when it kind of opened out again, actually they brought in these other backing vocals in there too. The whole sound opened up, became slightly less kind of like, not mono, but up until that it's been quite a closed sound, and it brought it all open together like that for that last little bit. And actually, I really liked how that was done. The production of that was really nice. The backing vocals were very well placed. It made a chorus that could have been maybe a little bit repetitive, because it basically is the same melodic idea repeated 4 times, but that last version was really nice. It added exactly what it needed. The night is too young, that morning will come around, the trouble's begun. Interesting, I actually feel like this song thematically feels closer to some of their earlier work, actually. It kind of got this slightly more classic blues rock feel to it than some of the more kind of proggy feels that the newer stuff's had. We're in it together now. It's time don't know how I feel about the vocal effects being put on this pre-chorus bit. It almost feels like he suddenly dips underwater, or the microphones had someone stand in between him and it. I'm sure it's an intentional effect, but I don't 100% know how much I like that. Yeah, the instrumentation behind this chorus is really, really nice. The tones on that guitar is really, really nice. I can't quite tell if it's double tracked or just an effect or the way that the tone is being put together, but it's got a very rich, kind of like jumping, sliding feel going on in the background, and I can't remember whether or not it was present in the first chorus, but this one definitely has a little bit of organ in the back of it, and I love me a little bit of organ. They deploy it usually quite subtly, but I really like what that sound does to everything. It just kind of enriches the entire thing in a way that I personally really, really like. Yeah, that little bit of backing harmony at the end there is really nice, and actually I feel like maybe whoever's playing the organ is doing a big kind of like kind of slide thing towards the end there, which kind of like again thickens that sound up real nice. Okay, well he's obviously not playing a mellophone, but that was all really great. This organ solo is sweet. The tone on the organ is rich and beautiful. It really cuts through in a nice way. And then to have that little tom roll come through at the same time through the drums, just to kind of like bring it out for a second and add a little bit more rhythm to it before it comes back into this like very kind of like pedal heavy, kind of like wide sound. Really like that. That was a very effective use of those instruments. Yeah. Okay, actually that just transitioned into a drum solo, but like a really chill one that doesn't seem to last too long. That is mostly him kind of like running around the toms, which I was not expecting and I quite like. Yeah, fair play, that was good. They're just some brothers having fun. Their camaraderie is so tangible. I don't know, the music video, they are all just like these cheeky chappies, even though he is dressed absolutely ridiculously, but fair enough. They do seem to be having fun. It's not particularly, like, I don't know, creative, maybe, music video in terms of what it is, but it's a performance video for the most part where they're just going around. They brought some cameras out for a couple of days. You know what, it's fun. I would like to be around there drinking drinks with them while we all sing, you know? Okay. God, the guitar work underneath this is so nice. It keeps them doing this like kind of like escalating, almost like a guitar revving kind of feel to it. Just jumps up and up this vroom. I really like that. The tones on it are beautiful. And again, now we've got this kind of like slightly larger vocal ad-libby feel outro to it, which is nice. He's still hitting those notes. They're pretty good. He does look in this video a little bit like he's about to poo himself if he pushes too much harder, but I appreciate the effort. Again, there's that, I think it's a flanger. I'm wondering whether it's been a flanger the entire time, but I don't know how I feel about that vocal effect. Usually I'm a fan of it, but I think the way that the phase is moving in and out with this one in particular, it's a little slow, so it just kind of ends up making it feel like in parts it's a bit flat rather than anything else, which I'm not sure is the desired effect. So it's toms again. I like that little vocal outro, though. That was nice. Okay, well, I think all in all, I actually really like that. It definitely felt to me like they're taking a step back into that slightly more uncomplicated classic rock feel to it. The organ solo was a big highlight. I did like the choruses. The harmonies that came in towards the back end of those choruses are also really tight. I think they saved it from being potentially a little bit melodically repetitive over the course of it. Same with the verses, to be fair, but again, his voice is so charismatic. He has this tone, which I think, to be fair, I was going to say he's differentiated himself from Robert Plant a little bit more with this one. I don't really know if that's true, but he does have this kind of like more ethereal, kind of like slightly Pixie-esque feel to it, which I am fine with, but the voice is the star of the show in a lot of ways, so it's kind of fine to have everything kind of like the chorus structure. The song structure is pretty basic, right? It's essentially verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, but it's a bridge, outro, I guess, but it's still executed really, really well. But where it's starting to really, really shine through for me is the actual like minute to minute, the second to second guitar work running through that entire thing is sublime. He manages to make this quite thick, but also kind of like very staccato feeling to it. It's got rich tones, but it's kind of a bit twangy as well. Whoever tuned that guitar and did all the production for it was very, very, very good at their job. Same with the drums. I feel like the drums did a lot of heavy lifting, trying to keep the rhythm kind of moving, and I liked the way that they interceded into the organ solo and became kind of a feature of it, which I actually really liked that. That was quite a nice change of expectations. It was, a nice tight 3 minutes 16. None of this sort of 6-7 minute long proggy stuff, which, is objectively good, but me with my little ADHD brain, I kind of lose interest after a while. So I really like this. I'm definitely going to be saving it, and I'm thinking that, for now, I'm going to be following through this album release cycle quite intensely, because I feel it's probably only up for here, and I'm on these guys' side. I like Greta Van Fleet. I want them to do well. I kind of want the world to leave them alone a little bit, even though I feel like now that animosity's not as bad, but still. I'm also very curious in the comments, what do you guys think? Have I just over-explained the thing that actually everyone in the audience already is on the same page as me at, is that we like Greta Van Fleet, and I'm not that fast about the comparisons to Led Zeppelin? I think this one is actually, to be honest, more Zeppelin-y than some of their more recent stuff, but that is not an issue for me. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? I'd be very curious. Other than that, if you did like the video, feel free to subscribe to the channel. That'll be amazing and helps grow grow me. Phrasing. Anyway, other than that, have a wonderful day. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.